Hello again and welcome to Esports Vikings Weekly. As mentioned before, I am Teemu and I'm joined by my friend
Janne.
And today, as we spoke last week, we have something special brewing around, right?
We do. And this is by far, I would say, my favorite time of the year. Once again, time for TI, and it's exciting times to say the least.
Oh, I have to agree with that. Obviously, the Dota 2, the International 2019 is going to start on the 15th of August. So now this is like the perfect moment to do a little bit of preview on what's coming up.
Definitely. I made a list of my favorite teams and, underdogs and so on. I'm sure you will not agree with most of them, but I think we'll go through. And also I would like to mention that on Twitter we'll do daily recaps, we'll do analysis of games, we'll have betting tips, we'll have all of these things. So make sure to check Twitter during the tournament because it will be loaded with things on our Swedish Twitter, Finnish and English.
Would you like to start with your main favorites to the tournament and then I'll turn you down?
That's probably how it's gonna go, but I will just shortly explain. I made a list where I have my favorites to win the tournament because I think they're fairly obvious. I think most people will agree. Then I have a tier 2, 3 and 4 where tier 2 are likely teams to make it far, make it really deep in the tournament, they have good chances to win. Tier 3 is my underdogs, the dark horses of the tournament, and those teams have, they have the potential to upset everybody, in my opinion, but it's still unlikely they will go the whole way, but they'll definitely make trouble along the way. Then we have tier 4, where I place my teams that I don't really believe in, and that might sound harsh, but some teams have to be on the bottom half. So begin with the favorites, and I would be surprised if you don't agree, but Team Secret is my main favorite, and they've been dominating the whole year. There's not much to say. There's probably not a sane person in the world that would not put them in the top. They've been dominant. They have a solid team, but there's a long break, and who knows how it will shape up. And then my second favorite is Vici Gaming, because Vici Gaming, ever since they won the major, or the two majors actually, they've been looking great. The weird thing is they started the year without being a favorite for anything. They won a minor. That's how they got into the first major win, which is, I don't think it has ever happened before, but I won't say for sure. But their run is absolutely unbelievable, and I think they've shown signs the whole year that they will be a favorite. The consistency is there. Their mid laner, Ori, he's amazing. I would say he's the best mid laner in the world right now. They also have the best 4 in the world potentially, even though Sai is one of my favorite players. Fade has been great. He plays, for example, Rubik, right? It's the next level. His game the whole year has been amazing. And I think this TI, if Vici Gaming actually goes to win, it's fair to say it's the best player in the world. That's my opinion.
Well, hard not to agree with that. Obviously, Team Secret has been phenomenal for a brief while. I mean, the way the team is built, the way the team is playing together is just fantastic, I mean, Zai he's a professor. The way he plays the game is just, it doesn't matter what hero you give him.
No.
He's always performing on the highest possible level. Obviously, when it comes to Vici Gaming, like you said, I think it's kind of from nothing to everything kind of story, Like you said, they started as when you heard the name Vici Gaming, no one bats an eye. And then, going from a minor, you go to a major, and I actually think it might be the first time it ever happened in Dota, is that they go and win, and then they win the second one. After the first major, people are still well, they might have got some lucky, And then after the second major, just you're left there thinking holy shit, these guys are actually here and they're not playing around. So, looking at the TI at the moment, it's more than likely that either Secret or Vici Gaming could be the reigning champion.
In my opinion, Team Secret is the team with the highest ceiling. When they play good, they are great. They crush every team when they are on point. But Vici Gaming, they are more about consistency. They never have bad games, and they drop maps, they do. But they always manage to win in the end. The consistency is amazing in Vici Gaming, which it totally comes down to that. If we see the best Team Secret at the International, I think they will win. if they actually have some of the struggles which they had, like during the last tournaments, they didn't win everything. In the beginning of the year, they did. They had some falls, and if Vici Gaming, I count on them to come there and be consistent as ever. I can't see Vici Gaming outside, top 4, top 5. It's not happening.
I mean, it would be a massive upset if either of those teams drop out, even in like early playoff stage. But
speaking of, we should probably jump to the teams that can upset them, though, because there are in my tier 2, which are, in my opinion, the teams that are closest to the top 2 and the teams that I do count on going deep in the tournament. I have Evil Geniuses, PSG LGD, Virtus Pro, and Liquid. That's the 4 teams I have behind them. I think all of those teams have a lot in common. They have good moments, but they don't perform every tournament. They have the highs, they have the lows, and it's hard to tell. Like, all of those teams for me could win the tournament, but they are still worse than the top 2. That's why they are in tier 2 for me.
Talking about PSG LGD, last year, looking, if we reflect to 2018's TI, the run they had and then falling in the finals for OG in a series that they should have won 10 times out of 10. When you look at the comebacks that OG had in the finals, it's still hard for me to understand how OG went and won the tournament. So how do you see PSG LGD at the moment compared to the team they were last year?
They're a tough team to evaluate right now because, in my opinion, it's for certain. Like, Vici Gaming has been the better Chinese team of the 2 this year, but when PSG LGD are on point, they are really good. They just started, the time after TI last year when they had that game against OG, and that was heart crushing for them. Obviously, they had a hard time for several months. The rest of 2018 was tough for them, but I think during this year they have shown that they rise up to the occasion, and especially maybe in the mid lane, Somnus, as he's called now, has shown that he's back. He's one of the best mid laners in the world, and before he was struggling. So I think with this long break before TI, like, we haven't seen PSG LGD for a good couple of months now, really, and coming in, they are definitely a team who could go and win it. Like, that's for me, that's my take on it. I think they're an amazing team. It's just they had some troubles this year, yeah.
I think that's a pretty good rundown about it. I mean, Evil Genius is always Evil Genius. They have their moments, now they're not playing with the American crowd behind them, so you're not gonna hear the USA chants, which for me is actually quite relieving. I'm, sick of that to a certain extent. But I think Evil Genius, they are a really good team with really good players.
I would say they are one of the most consistent teams in the world. They're, it's becoming a meme that they are in 3rd place every single tournament, but they show that they can compete with the good teams or the world-class teams over and over. It's just that when they get to that point, they don't beat the Vicis or the Secrets. They have a hard time there, or like BP or any other top teams. They struggle, and if anything, they do have the potential. Like, they could win. But they need to get over that. Like, they need to start performing better in the crucial moments. They really do. Because, like, for an example, they had an amazing run in one of the majors where in the group stage they won every single game. They beat everybody. And then in the playoffs, they started well, and then they get to like a semifinal, and there we are again. And then they end up 3rd. It's something they need to get over because the team has loads of potential. Like, look at their players. It's the best players in the world in every position. Like, they're amazing, but they really need to start performing in the crucial moments. That's my take on it.
I think a lot of it comes down to Sumail, actually. To the performance of Sumail, because there have been moments when you see he's struggling, when he's on camera, you can see the frustration on his, face. And that's something that could be a turning point, because if the other teams can shut down Sumail, and because in a way, he's the one who manages the tempo on how they play.
He binds everything together in his team, and the thing is, when Sumail is playing well, he's the best mid laner in the world. Like, if that happens, but then a lot of times he's also the reason they fall. It really is. Like, it might be harsh, but it's up to Sumail. I do agree. It's very, very important that he has a good tournament, like probably the tournament of his life.
Yeah.
But then again, he's been there. He's won TI. You know, he was 16 or something when he won TI, and he's performed there, and I believe he can do so again. But they're not a favorite for me.
Yeah.
I think the other team that is really interesting in this tier is Liquid, since when they changed out Matumbaman and took in Weeha. I think a lot of people were shaking their heads and they were like, what's going on and why? And but I think it's been clear the whole year that Liquid needed a change. I don't think they didn't perform as well as you expect a team Liquid stature to do. And Weeha came in, they ended second in the major. That says something, I think Weeha played amazingly. He brings an element to Liquid that they didn't have before. He plays the flashy heroes. He's an expert on Invoker, Meepo. I know you like Matumbaman.
No, not about that. But like this, like what we have brought in the tournament is the Wind Ranger.
Yeah, that is true. You're not wrong.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, Liquid needed a change. As a Finn, I'm a bit biased. Obviously, I didn't want to see Matumbaman go, but with Weeha, Liquid has obviously picked up.
I think so.
And there's been some rant about Weeha just spamming Wind Ranger, but then again, they win games, and if you're winning Dota, you're playing well.
Look, I think that's a very moot point. Like, yeah, he played Wind Ranger because they did well with it. Yeah. But look at the guy. Like, he's an expert on other heroes too.
Of course.
He offers a lot to Liquid that they didn't have with Matumbaman. And as much as I like Matumba and together with Miracle, like their work together is good, but he brings another level to them. They have, they can draft differently. They can base the play on different reasoning, and they can just play differently. Before it was very one-dimensional, and other teams picked up on that. They couldn't perform. Every time they played a top team, they got basically outdrafted or outplayed, and that doesn't happen if we had the same way. But still, they only played one tournament with him, and it will be very interesting to see where it goes in this tournament, because I mean, as I see it, it can honestly be them winning the tournament, or it can be them just crashing out in the first rounds. It's still a new team. It takes time. I mean, the major run was definitely impressive, but that is just one tournament.
Yeah, and now they're going to get actually tested when we get to the group stages. Yeah. And then your last team from the tier 2. I mean, I just want to point out that if I asked you half a year ago who would win TI, you would have said Virtus Pro, right?
Very likely, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have said any of the two favorites now. Yeah. That's for sure. BP would have definitely been one of, if not the top one team then. And I think they still have it. They showed that in the majors. They won more majors than anybody. They almost went to every single final. But they have been struggling. Like, they have been struggling for a while now, and TI has been hard on BP in the past. They ended 7th to 8th, I think, 3 years in a row. And they came in as a favorite every time. So it's time for them to show that they can do it, or otherwise they are probably going to start doubting themselves a lot. They probably already do.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many majors you win if you can't win the TI. Like, TI is TI.
It's I can guarantee you for BP there's only one goal, and it's TI.
Yeah.
And now it's the time for them to show. It's time to show something. They have been struggling way too long now, and who knows? I still can't I can't put them in tier 3 or tier 4. Like, it's VP. VP is one of the best teams in the world. They have been for a long time, and they have to be there.
But would it be reasonable, because of the history that VP has with TI, even though all the major wins they had, and looking at their success lately, which has been a struggle, would it be fair to drop them down to the tier 3? Because they are a team that does not perform in TI, even though they win everything else. So they are actually the ones that you can't really expect much, because they can't make it in the TI.
Honestly, I mean, we have four teams in tier 2, and it's hard to say because VP is such a powerhouse in Dota.
Yeah.
But they are, out of the 4 teams, I would say they are the weakest one right now. I would, like you said, half a year ago, they would have done favorites, and now I want to put them in a tier 3 category. That's insane, but I don't really trust them to perform. I don't.
But I think that's also the beauty of Dota. The powerhouses change all the time, so it keeps it interesting. But talking about tier 3, excuse me. So what you got there?
This is a very special category for me because it's not certain. Like, I'm not saying that these teams are better than all of the teams in Tier 4, because there's a lot of teams in Tier 4.
Yeah.
And it's basically as Tier 4 means I don't believe this team has a chance to win TI. Tier 3, not necessarily stronger teams, but they have shown that they can win against the best. Like, when they have a good day, they are amazing. Like, let's take the obvious one, OG.
Hey! My boys!
I can imagine you're not happy to see them in Tier 3, but there's a reason, and the reason is simple. OG is, just on paper, they are worse than all the other teams I put ahead of them. I think that's pretty obvious. But OG is a team who can beat everybody. On a given day, we saw that last year, obviously, it's a miracle run, but I think this year it's gonna be tough, even though they looked really good since Anna came back. I mean, they picked up a lot, but they're still not a top-tier team. They just aren't. But when it comes to these games, when they play, you can put them against anybody on my list, and I would say they do have a chance. They just do.
Well, obviously, I love OG.
I know that.
I've followed Notel I don't know for how long, but a long time, and just the run last year that they had was. There's no words to describe it. Obviously, 2 Finns in the team, which always warms my heart too, but. As when I reflect to when a reigning champions returns to TI and having an actual chance to winning it again.
Yep.
As much as I would like to see OG raise the ages for the second time and even in a row, I have my doubts. Obviously, I hope for that. It would be fantastic, but yeah, I think the beauty of OG is their draft because they don't care. They just don't give a shit. They draft whatever they want, but that's also their weakness because when some teams that are maybe better construction when it comes to drafting, they can outdraft them because of the OG's weird picks. With heavy heart, I agree that OG is a team that can upset.
Yeah, they're a dark horse. It's simple, and actually, it's funny when you talk about the drafting. I think we saw that when OG played Secrets in the major, right? And it was the biggest stomp of the tournament. OG got completely outdrafted, and I think that is bound to happen at some point again. It's just that sometimes they do these random things and they work out, but it's against a team as good as Secret. I don't think Pop is gonna fall for it. He's too smart, and same with Vici or almost any other top team. But the potential is there, and I have 2 other teams in the Tier 3, which are TNC and Alliance. Alliance might raise some eyebrows, but look, I'm Swedish, I might be biased, but I really think that Alliance has been showing up lately.
No, definitely, they've picked up a lot. They played really well in was it minor?
Yes.
Yeah.
They've been pretty terrible actually for a few years. That's the hard truth, but they've been working hard, and it shows. They have really, really good results now, and they have one player I really like. I didn't believe in Koikwa. And when they picked him up, I was not positive. And I don't think, he has a long career, but he hasn't really shown up to be the player in the past for me. Yeah. But he's been looking amazing. He's been destroying teams with Storm Spirit, Death Prophet. He's been amazing. He's been the best player. He's the reason they are in TI at all. And I think last tournament they played was the Summit. Look, there was not very many good teams there, but they won. They showed up, they beat the teams, they won the final 3-0. They've been really solid, and I think Alliance is a team that whoever they play, especially in a group stage, they can win against everybody. I'm not saying they're a favorite, they are far from it, but in the playoffs, when they get there, because I'm sure they'll get that far, two teams will drop out in the group stages. They will not be one of them.
Yeah.
And as I see it, there's not many games to a final, to a semi-final. I think they can go far. And obviously, it's going to be a tough road for them. They're not a top-tier team. They are not. But they can perform. On a good day, they can beat many teams. And I think they're going to do a run. I'm actually pretty certain Alliance will at least surprise people. Look, if they get a 7th to 8th place, that's already a success for them. It's a very big deal. So I think they'll do something like that.
No, definitely. And when you watch, if anyone who's watched Alliance games lately, they have to have seen this by themselves. They played amazing Dota. They're drafting well, they're playing consistently. The way they're playing together. The use of their TPs. They're really fast reacting, and making sure that the plays are happening to their advantage. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see Alliance. I don't see them repeating the TI3, but
no. And also, I mean, I don't think they're gonna make like a OG run or anything. It's not that. It's I think they can place good for themselves. They can surprise people because a lot of people have them dead last. I don't think that's correct. And also, what you were talking about before, the play style. I think a lot of times they've been on the cusp to win against good teams, but they can't close the games out. And that's something they really need to practice. It's something I really hope they spend this month that they had before and during Summit as well to actually make sure they don't run into those issues. Because if they can just start closing out games, they have a really, really good chance to make it far. That's my opinion. They've been crushing good teams. They just can't finish the game.
Yeah. So you said there's 3 teams in your tier 3, so what's the third one?
This is a controversial one because I'm pretty sure a lot of people want this in the tier 2 at least right now, which is TNC. I think they are doing really well. They came 4th, I believe, in the last major, and they look good. There's no doubt about it, but I wouldn't really want to put them up there with the EGs or VPs, and I don't think they're on that level yet. They've shown good signs and they're doing well. I think it's look, they are better than Alliance. I think they're better than OG as well, but they are just okay. They are close to tier 2, and I think they have a good chance to make it far. I just don't think they will win. I don't think they have what it takes. I think we're seeing it in the majors. They have good runs, they have good group stages, they beat all the teams they should beat. That's one strength of them. They always win against worse teams, and that's great. But they really seem to struggle when it comes to beating the top tier teams. And that's my reasoning for them not making it the whole way. I think they'll have a good run. I think if they place top 6, that's already good, and I think they will do it.
Well, I think you kind of actually answered the question whether they should be in tier 3 or tier 2 yourself when you said they can beat the bad ones, but when you need to win the big games against the big teams, they can't. So that's kind of the reason why you couldn't even put them to tier 2.
I think so. We'll see. If they take another step, because they've been on the rise. Like, they've been constantly improving. If they can do it to this tournament as well, they might do an OG, Even if OG was a way bigger upset than TNC would be, I would say. Like last year, OG's run is amazing. TNC right now, for a lot of people, they are one of the better teams. So it wouldn't be that surprising, but I still want to put them one step below because they still have to show that they can beat the top tier teams.
Fair.
So I think we'll go to all the teams I don't think have a chance, if I can put it like that.
Okay, let's do it like this. Let's go through the tier 4 teams one by one. Just go through the names and then let's pick the ones that might have an opportunity to win a game.
I have the teams on a list here. So it's Infamous, Navi, Mineski, Newbie, which is the Forward Gaming that become Newbie for this tournament, Royal Never Give Up, Keen Gaming, NIP, Fnatic, and Chaos. That's my teams.
The old Forward Gaming, which is now Newbie then. Yeah. They've had some really good games every now and then.
They have talent. They do.
But it's just when they get to the moment you need to shine, now's your time, show us what you got. It's you crack an egg and throw it away. It's like nothing
I honestly
happens.
think they have the potential, they have the talent, but they don't have the experience and they are just lacking. I can put it like this as well. This tier 4, there's a lot of teams. I could divide them.
Yeah.
They are obviously not equal. Some are better, some are worse, and I would rank some very much higher than others. But I think all of these teams don't have what it takes to win. And for an example, if we move on, NIP is a team that I think always can do well. I think PPD is a drafter, a tactician that whatever team he's on, he brings them far. He did it with EG all the time. When it was on Optic Gaming, they made a deep run in TI as well. Nobody believed they will. I think they can do it with NIP now as well. It's just they don't have what it takes to win. They might make it farther.
What do you think? Okay, this might be my biased Finnish ego talking, but now that Matumba Man is part of Chaos, and not only Matumba Man, but there's Misery, because I've always liked Misery, you know. He's always been there in Dota. He's like, we all remember the run he had with Digital Chaos in TI a few years back, and oh my lord, what a tournament that was. But with Misery and Matumba Man in Chaos, there's a lot of talent, a lot of expertise, a lot of experience. Do you think Chaos could have a chance to make something out of it?
No. No, honestly, look, I understand what you're saying, and there's obviously they got a lot better when they picked up Matumba Man, there's no doubt about it, but I don't see them as a team who can make it far. I think they already had a hard time in the open qualifiers. They picked it up and they sorted it out and they qualified, which is good. But against top tier teams, I just don't see that team having, honestly, any chances. I know you won't like this, but I actually think they will. They might end dead last, or they might go out in the first round of the playoff. That's my prediction.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is that Misery and Matumba Man is just simply not enough. The other three players are just, they're not enough.
I mean,
because I'm fine with that, you know.
I do. Okay. I don't think like Queso, Milan, they aren't. Obviously, they are not bad players, but on this stage, I don't think they will have what it takes.
Okay.
I just don't. And if we move on, I think there's a few other points here that are worth mentioning. Like, I think Fnatic is an interesting team at the beginning of the year, and I'll be honest, I put them as one of the outsiders to make it very deep. I thought they were going to be a good team. They have Abed, who's a great mid player. They have Ice, they have DJ. I thought they were going to do well, like I really did, but they have been terrible. They look, every major, they have been a disappointment, and that's just the truth. Even if Abed is one of probably the best mid players in the world, I thought that was going to get it together. Right now, I can't see them going far, but there is an outside chance if they can get their work. You know, their team to work together, they have amazing talent in that team, and honestly Fnatic, I could have them in tier 3. They've been terrible, still I would put them in tier 3 because when they have a good day they should be able to bring it together, but they just haven't this far.
Wait, remind me, did Fnatic get invite via DPC or did they go to qualifiers?
I'm pretty sure they had the points, they did.
Yeah.
Because they've still been a part of every major pretty much, and they got more points than some of the other teams.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty, yes, that's true, because Mineski is the Southeast Asian team who qualified. So, true. But yeah, I think that concludes my list. I think, as I said, we will have a lot on Twitter, and this is shortly my points on it. We will go through the teams more, and we'll have previews for games, some analysis, we'll do some betting tips. There's going to be way more information on every team than this. So.
Yeah, basically, so what we're going to do is during TI, we're going to be working very long days. Not because we have to, but because we want to. We're going to be watching all of the games live. We're going to be tweeting about them. Janne, for example, he has 10, 15 years of experience with esports betting, something like that?
Yeah, pretty much since the first site in the world had it available, I was there, so it's been a long journey.
So basically we're going to be watching all these games, we're going to give some betting tips for something that you might find good odds for, you know, whenever there's something happening. But yeah, follow the Twitter accounts. During TI we will be doing a lot of stuff in Finnish, English and Swedish, and I hope you enjoyed this video. We will do a lot more in the future, and the next one will come next week. So thank you very much.
If you did like it, you should subscribe as well, so you see the next one,
which is coming in a week. And another really good reason to subscribe is to make sure you follow up on the good stuff we're talking about that we're not going to talk about. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next week.